Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to another amazing live video here in the Portrait Photographer's Resource. As always, we have another amazing, incredible guest that is joining us today. He's an educator in the industry. He's a phenomenal portrait artist. He's one of the 6 finalists from the Pro Prince Invitational Contest 2024. I want to introduce you to the lovely, the handsome, and the talented Rick Lewis. Rick, say hello to the world.
Hey everyone, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Rick, it is such a pleasure to have you on here. I remember the first time that I met you, I really actually had words exchanged with you was at Shutterfest last year. And I remember I'm like, who's this douchey looking guy who thinks he's such hot, stuff? And it turns out you're an amazing artist, and you have incredible talent to back up not only the good looks, but your presence. And it's been such an honor and a privilege to get to know you, man. And I'm really glad we got to bond a little bit more too last year at the Invitational.
Thank you. Yeah, me too, man. It was awesome. Great
Yes.
experience. I only look like a douche. I'm a big teddy bear inside. You come give me a hug.
I do enjoy giving you a hug, because I get a little bit of a little preview of those muscles when I hold you. So, well, and so Rick, for those who don't know you, I would love for you to give a little bit of an introduction to yourself, kind of share with the world what it is you do, how you got started in photography. If you're doing any sort of education stuff, please share with us. And yeah, anything to kind of paint a picture for us, because you got a lot going on, and you're really quite an interesting guy. So please share with us what you have going on.
Yeah, thank you, man. So I actually started off as a model in Atlanta, and
Mm-hmm.
I about 6 years ago decided to pick up a camera because I figured that would make me a better model, learning photography, like just knowing angles and what the photographer sees through the lens. And I decided I loved that a lot more and started submitting my work and started getting published. And I'm all self-taught. I'm the type of person that I can watch a YouTube video while I'm doing cardio on the treadmill and I can remember everything. I can come home and remember lighting setups. I can remember, you know, Photoshop stuff. So I've basically kind of segued into I do a lot of fine art photography, portraiture. I do a lot of product photography for my wife, um, Kayla Douglas Artistry. She makes angel wings, and she's just got into making bridal gowns and fantasy gowns last year, and that's really taken off for her. So I do a lot of the photography for her website and for her events. She has a yearly VIP party in Vegas every year during WPPI. It sells out in like 24 hours. And I'm the principal photographer for that. And then we just got back from Shutterfest last week. That was a blast. I had three classes there. On one was on lighting, one was on same day reveals, how to increase your IPS with same day reveals, and then the third one is what I'm really known for was retouching for fine art. So it was a blast.
That's awesome, man. And yeah, as you were talking, I was going through some of your photos for the whole world to see, for those who may not be familiar with you. And I think you labeling yourself as a fine art photographer is spot on, because some of these concepts are so unique and so just intriguing. And I gotta ask you, where when I see photographers that are such a high level like yourself, and have and have work that in my opinion is just so creative, I have to ask you, where do you pull inspiration from? Do you just do you smoke like a bunch of weed and then just come up with ideas, or are you just dreaming up these ideas, or do you see a concept from somewhere? What's your strategy behind that?
So segue first. Fun. I know we got reviews to do, but funny story is I don't do weed. It makes me too paranoid. But I always think, maybe there'll be one time I'll have a good experience. And Friday we were in Missouri and it's legal there, so I got an edible
Okay.
and I ate one. And then Kayla lets me know, oh yeah, we're going to get lunch with Gary Hill and Charlie Kaufman. Right after I ate an edible, I had no idea. So I was
Oh no.
I was out of my mind for that whole lunch, and I was like,
Oh
never again am I doing
no.
this. But they said they couldn't even tell, so it was good.
Okay.
But no, creative inspiration. A lot of it comes from political environment. I know that doesn't make sense, but I see everyone going on Facebook and posting their political beliefs or religious beliefs and all that stuff, and you're not doing any good. You're not. Nobody's reading that and taking it in. You're an
No,
artist, and you're cheapening yourself by doing that. If you're an artist, why don't you create an image that says what you're trying to say? That's going to speak more
I love that.
volumes. And then a lot of it comes from song lyrics. I drive a lot. Driving is relaxing for me,
Okay.
and I listen to a lot of music while I'm driving. And as I'm listening to music, my mind's eye is actually playing an entire music video, whether the song has one or not. I just see it in my head. And a lot of that from the song lyrics turns into images.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, speaking from experience, driving, at least for me, has this transcendent, like, relaxing kind of spiritual, um, it's just a spiritual experience for me. And when you go out and drive, what do you typically drive?
Well, I just have a little Hyundai Elantra, man.
Okay,
I'm low budget, but I listen to
fair
a lot
enough.
of I listen to a lot of metal music. Um,
Yeah.
and you'll find, like, even if you don't like metal, not all metal, but the lyrics are very kind of fantasy based anyway,
Mm-hmm.
or sci-fi based, or
Yeah.
um, and so it's really easy for me to think of things like videos and stuff in my head when I'm hearing the lyrics when I'm just driving. Um, but even a lot of instrumental stuff um, does that for me as well. I'll just see things in my head, and then I have my notes app on my phone, and I don't type while I'm driving, but I turn on my microphone and I'm like, this concept. I've done a few concepts on sex trafficking
Okay.
because that's a big issue for me. But it's not on the nose, right? It's not like a girl's in cuffs, or tied to a bed. It's Kayla in a shadow box with butterfly wings with a price tag on it. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So it's
Yeah.
not so on the nose, but it still gets the message across.
I love that. I love that. Well, Rick, that's super cool, and I'd love to hear a little bit from you again on where you pull that inspiration from, because I mean a lot of the artists that I try to bring onto these critiques are people that in some way or another I look up to. And in a lot of ways, I feel like they have a certain advantage over me, right? Because as an artist and someone that's very passionate about my career, and I'm sure you feel the same way as well as many people watching this video, is I'm always trying to constantly learn, right? You and we're both educators in the industry, but if we don't stop that learning process for ourselves, then we're never going to get better and we're never going to be able to achieve, greatness, however you define that. So I'd love to hear that. And thank you for sharing that all with us.
Yes, sir.
So before we dive into these critiques, do you have any like workshops or educational opportunities that are coming up? I know you just got back, excuse me, from Shutterfest, which I'm bummed I had to miss, but anything else coming up?
So we do have a fine art workshop here in July. If you go on my website, you'll see it. I just got approached by another photography conference today, but no contracts have been signed yet. So I don't want to speak on that. But it'll be on my website if that gets approved. And then Kayla has retreats next year. She's got a retreat in Portugal and a retreat in Scotland. So I'll be an educator there, but there'll also be other educators there as well, like Braulio, Catford
Oh, cool.
Coates, Shannon Doherty, Richard Wood, who is like the goat. I love Richard Wood so much. In fact, I'll like how people send you images to do live critiques.
Hmm.
I'll send Richard, you know, my images and get his feedback. And it's something you can't be sensitive on. I mean, he's nice about it, but it's something they're giving you this information. You're giving people this information to help them grow, right? You want to be honest with them so they grow and they become better artists. And that's why this kind of stuff is so important. And even having a mentor or someone, like Richard Wood that I look up to,
Yeah.
that I can send images to, it's super important. But anyway, I got sidetracked. He's going to be one of the educators. But if you go on Kayla's website, KaylaDouglasArtistry.com, you'll see her retreats on there.
Very cool. Very cool. Love to hear that. Yeah, and
Oh,
Portugal is an amazing place.
Do you know what this is?
Protein shake. Oh, it's chocolate milk.
It's
It's
your
chocolate
chocolate
milk.
milk that I stole from the Pro Prince competition.
I still have some of that same chocolate milk actually in my fridge right now. It's a protein chocolate milk, so you can't go without that. I got to maintain this beach body somehow, and I'm
I heard
barely
it makes you a
maintaining it.
better photographer.
That's true. Well, for those of you who don't understand that reference, watch the Pro Prince Invitational YouTube video from last year where Rick stole my chocolate milk first thing in the morning. So it was quite a funny exchange. But anyway, let's go ahead and hop into these critiques. But before we jump in, I just want to give a quick shout out to our recurring sponsor, which again is eVoto. Now, for those of you who have not used eVoto, it's basically what it is. It is, sorry, excuse me. It is an AI editing platform, but basically, or I should say more specifically, it's it's for retouching basically. So the really cool thing about it is you can pull any sort of portrait through eVoto, and what you can do is give it a bunch of different parameters such as skin retouching. You can remove stray hairs, which is one of my favorite features. You can change the background. Whether you're a wedding photographer, portrait photographer, or you're just a hobbyist, it has saved me so much time with all of my editing, and I use it for business headshots, weddings, a little bit more creative stuff. Basically, any sort of portrait work, it makes removing all of these flaws and making your just image editing process so much more streamlined and way easier. And at the end of this, we're going to be giving away two 1,600 credit packages to two photographers here. So make sure you stick around till the end because it's going to be really exciting. And I know you were telling me, Rick, before we jumped on that you use eVoto too, I think.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I was just at Shutterfest and took about 3,000 photos. And it's what it's Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? It's Tuesday, right? We
It's
got back.
Tuesday, yeah.
Okay, we got back Sunday, and
Okay.
it's Tuesday, and I've already delivered 400 photos from Shutterfest to the
Wow.
models. So I use Aftershoot to cull everything because I don't
Okay.
like culling, and then
Yep.
I'll run I'll run them through Evoto, and then I mean it everything I used to hand edit before, and it would take me around 15-20 minutes per image. I don't have to do
Yeah.
that anymore.
I love that. I love that. Well, so again, if you submitted a photo, you are automatically entered to win. So make sure you hang around till the end. So if I call your name, and you win, then you'll know that you're a winner. So we're gonna go ahead and start though, and as always, I will be looking at the comments on the screen on my right. So if I look this way, that is because I'm looking at all of your comments. Really quickly, we got Maggie watching from Lima, Peru. Hi, Maggie. We got Rafael Serrano. Kayvon is watching from inside an ambulance at a post in Denver. Thanks for tuning in, Kayvon. Amber, Kayla is watching from the other room. Adrian Como, Melissa Morgan, Radon Burton, Scott, Devin, John. We have Jared. We have so many of you watching. Ray. Thank you again for tuning in. If you have any questions or comments, there's Nikki, there's Heidi, there's Hector. We got all the people. There's Chelsea watching now. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We have a ton of people. We're going to start with our first image. Here we go. This first image comes from another Fort Collins local. This comes from Mark Creary. And basically, let's see, no sort of metadata or anything like that. So we're just going to take this photo as it is, take it at face value. So, Rick, I'm going to ask you to start. I want you to tell us what you like, what you think could be improved, basically any sort of constructive criticism that you have on Mark's photo.
Yes, sir. So I don't see it on my screen here, but I see it on my other screen. I'm not supposed
Yep,
to see it here, right? I just want to
doesn't
make sure
matter.
the viewers can see it. Okay.
They can all see
So
it.
okay, awesome. So I love the creativity of this photo. I'm assuming that the center reflection is supposed to be the focal point. There are two things that kind of stick out at me. Um, One is at the top of that midline, that center focal point. I see two knobs that look like they're fingertips. I'm not sure if those are the fingers or not in the image. Do you see what I'm talking about?
I do, yeah. And he actually did. He did attach a behind the scenes photo, and you know what they are? They're the it's the instrument panel from the
Okay.
dash.
Okay, so they're not fingers. I would
They're
take
not
them out
fingers.
anyway,
Okay.
just because they look like fingers. And if you submit this to competition, they're automatically going to think it's fingertips that
Mm.
he's using like the cell phone as like part of the reflection. I know it's a car hood, I'm assuming, and a windshield, but um, I would just take that out. And then I'd also be interested to see what the image would look like flipped upside down, because you can tell that's kind of how
Yeah.
they are.
Right. So, and actually, the original photo was flipped upside down, and it was right side up. And I keep talking about this original photo, so I'm going to show you all at home who are watching live. I know, Rick, you won't be able to see this, but here's the original image, everyone. And yeah, as you can see, he made the creative choice to shoot it upright and then flip it. So I think it's a really interesting perspective, and it's an interesting thing that he did. Yeah, whether or not it's super effective, I think that's to be seen, or still to be answered. But I could certainly appreciate the thought behind doing something a little bit differently. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What else, is there anything else that you'd have to add to this before I jump in?
No.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, I do appreciate thinking a little bit outside of the box, Mark. Where it gets a little bit lost for me is you have a lot of this. At least in my opinion, when I look at this image, my eye wanders almost a little bit too much. You have this like negative space in the windshield. What I would almost, what I would almost probably do is just crop this tighter. Get rid of some of the distracting elements, and maybe just crop it like halfway down the image. So what you're doing is you're getting rid of those those fingers, so to speak, and you basically just see the double reflection as opposed to maybe three or two reflections in one original image. Or just flip it right side up the way you originally shot it, and just leave the processing the way you did, because I actually really like this contrasty black and white image. So there's so many things you could do here, Mark, and I definitely appreciate you thinking outside of the box, but I think some of the elements might just get a little bit lost with the viewer here. So cool. Well, if there's nothing else that you have to add, Rick, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next photo. Are you
Yes,
still
sir.
there? Okay,
I
cool.
am. Yes, sir.
Just making sure. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move on. This next photo comes from Hector Vasquez, and this was captured with a Nikon Z6 with a Sigma 35mm art lens. Okay, so the first thing I'm noticing here is it looks like, I don't know if it's just a low quality image, but I'm seeing a little bit of um, kind of a little bit of pixels that are a little distorted maybe. I think it's just a low quality image, so I'm going to pretend that we're seeing a full resolution version here. But absolutely love what you've done here. You know, you're utilizing reflections, Hector, and this is something kind of like the last image, just a little bit outside the box. It's something a little bit different. She I want to talk about the pose a little bit first here, because I think the lighting and the composition and a lot of the elements of this photograph are really stunning. But there's just a couple small things I think that could use some help, and it's the pose. And I think the pose, the way she has her hands positioned, doesn't quite match her facial expression. And what I mean by that is with her arms, it's almost like she's about to fall, right? Like she's catching herself. And she doesn't look very relaxed, and but her face does. Her body language doesn't say that she's relaxed. Her face does. So what I would do to maybe relax her just a little bit more is have her bring her elbows down, have her bring her arms in just a little bit, so we have a little bit more of those triangles, a little bit more bend in those elbows. So it looks like she's her body language is suggesting that she's a little bit more relaxed to match her facial expression. But everything else, you know, the lighting, the toning, the post production, from my point of view, is solid. And I think this is a little bit more in your realm, Rick. So I'd love to hear your opinions on this.
So I love this. I love the crisp blue, how it just pops out at you, and everything else is neutral. Um, there's a few things I noticed. You mentioned a few of them, but that the wall that's being divided, that center line, I'd put that perfectly in the center. I would crop
Ah,
over some of this negative space. I would put that line perfectly in the center.
yep,
And
love it.
then there's an outlet right above the stool rung. I can see. I would take that outlet out.
Mm-hmm.
It's super quick and easy to take it out, but it's distracting. Um, and I also, her limbs are cut off in the reflection, which I get it. And you mentioned bringing the elbows down a little bit. That probably would have also helped with that super bright hot spot on her arm, because
Mm-hmm.
your eye is going to go where the brightest area of the photo is. So
Right.
that arm is way brighter than her face. But what I kind of would have really loved to see, that would have, it probably would have made me tear up a little bit, if I can even say that, is maybe a pose of her hugging herself while she's looking at her reflection.
Oh, okay.
So she's loving herself while she's looking at the reflection, and you're also not cutting off limbs in the reflection if you did that as well. And you'd also get rid of that hot spot on the arm, because now her arm's down lower.
Gotcha. That's a very good point for sure. Yeah, I did notice that as well. It almost looks like maybe a little bit of that was kind of done in post production too, because I'm seeing this kind of where the shadow of her arm actually meets her arm. I'm seeing this really bright white edging, so to speak. Like it's almost like a highlight that's just
Yeah.
cutting out her arm, and it's a little distracting to me. So just in post production, maybe bring that down a tad, balance out the lighting a little bit better, and I think you have a pretty solid image. And it looks like you potentially did a little bit in post production, but yeah, Hector, maybe I'm seeing on the bottom of the train a couple wrinkles, and you can use something like Evoto to get rid of those wrinkles just a little bit, or in Photoshop or even Lightroom. Just little tiny attentions to detail. And when you're photographing stuff like this on such a high level, we're gonna kind of nitpick some of the smaller stuff too, just to elevate you even more. So, really good stuff, Hector. I really appreciate it, and it's been a while since you've submitted, so thank you so much for submitting this image, dude. Um, we're gonna go ahead and move to our next photo now. This next photo comes from another regular contributor, Radon Burton, and no info attached to this, but looks like it was in a pretty good location, pretty cool location. Rick, why don't you start?
So it's really cool that you got so much detail in the sky. What is that? Is that a rocket or a meteor in the skyline?
Just looks like a plane with
That's cool.
some chemtrails.
That's awesome that you were able to get her centered up and catch that. I love the earthy browns and oranges separated with the blues and the teals up at the top. That's absolutely stellar. And like Sean said, at this level, we're nitpicking, right? There's a few things I noticed. Kayla's in the next room. My wife, I love her to death. She has gargantuan feet. I call them platypus feet. And so but I love them. Like I make a lot of money off of them on OnlyFans, off of feet. I'm kidding. Okay.
I heard that in the background.
But so with that being said, anything you put closer to the lens is going to appear bigger. So when I photograph Kayla, I have to make sure her feet aren't the closest thing to the lens. I have to pull them back a little bit to make them appear smaller. I would have done that here. Also, you never put the palm close to the face facing out. You have wrinkles here, and it contrasts too much with this. So you want to turn the palm in gently. I would have done that, and I would have burned that arm down a little bit. I just would have darkened it down a little bit so
Mhm.
that it's not competing with her face.
Yeah, absolutely. And I noticed it, similar as well, how the bottom portion of her appears to be a little bit disproportionate to her upper body. So, Radon, like this image, I love to shoot from the same perspective as well with my clients. So one thing I have my clients do when I'm doing these low perspectives is I actually have them lean their upper part of their body towards the camera a little bit, and it helps minimize that distortion. So it's something to keep in mind when you're doing photos like this, and it works with couples, it works with singles, it works with models. So really, just have that model lean a little bit forward when you're these low wide perspectives, and it's going to make a huge difference. But yeah, would agree as well about the palm. she's definitely really toned though. She's got some muscles. I mean, look at those arms. Those are some strong looking arms. So what a really cool subject. And I don't know if this was intentional or if it was just a happy accident, but I personally love the airplane in the background. I think it adds a nice little a little bit more like an Easter egg, just kind of a little bit more um, of an visual element that's interesting to this image. So yeah, light looks great. You have that nice short lighting where she's looking into the light. So and you have that Rembrandt light. You got that nice little triangle of light on her right cheek. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's actually
yeah,
pretty cool that he got the Rembrandt triangle and using short lighting at the same time. That's pretty cool.
yeah, absolutely. So um, great. I have nothing else to add, but just let's keep those things in mind, Radon, and you got a killer photo for next time. So very cool, very cool. We're gonna go ahead and move on to image number 4. This photo comes from Brian Green, and this was captured at the Dry Lake Bed in a Kayla Douglas dress.
That's the feather
Yeah,
gown. Yeah.
that is the feather ground. That is the feather gown. Yeah, I can see that. Very cool dress. So yeah, a couple. There's a lot of things here that I love, and there's definitely some things that I feel like could be improved on a little bit. So I will start by first talking about what I like. What I like is that you properly balanced your exposures between your highlights and your shadows in the foreground. So really really good job there, Brian. That's not always an easy thing to do for photographers. So you did that well. We still see detail in the highlights in the sky, and we still see the model that's exposed. So very nice. Couple things here. I'm gonna start with a couple of the obvious things. So for starters, a little bit of more attention to detail with your surroundings in two ways. So one, there is a flash on the ground in front of her. I'm assuming maybe this was taken during a group shoot and you just forgot to Photoshop that out. So just keep that in mind, especially when you're submitting photos to clients. The second thing is the horizon line. You have the mountains kind of cutting off of her neck or going through her neck a little bit. So it's almost like in a way decapitating her. And if you've watched a lot of these critiques in the past, you'll see this is a recurring issue that a lot of photographers do, and that's something you want to be aware of, right? Because it's just a little bit distracting. The other thing too is the composition. So this kind of and rules are meant to be broken, admittedly, but this does kind of break the rule of thirds, right? We have our subject right in the middle of the frame, so you have all this negative space surrounding your subject, so it makes it hard for your eye to distinguish exactly where it needs to look. So an easy way you can fix that in post-production is just to actually crop in from the right up to the left. So she's actually facing in towards the frame, in towards the highlights in the sky. Or you could do almost like a 16:9 crop and just crop out the entire bottom half of the frame, so you have a little bit more negative space in the sky. And I think that would really lend itself to an awesome photo. Couple more things that as well, but I'm going to let Rick touch up on them because I know he probably has something to add to before I talk about everything.
So I do love the colors in this. We know Brian. Brian's super cool dude. I'm
Oh,
always
very
jealous of
cool.
his leather jackets. He always has nice leather jackets.
Yes.
Um, I always want to take his jackets from him, but I'm kidding. I hope I gave him a chuckle. Um, I agree with a lot of what you said. The first thing I noticed was the flash on the floor. There's also some distracting rocks and elements, and I know we're out in the desert, and I know this is the solar fields out there. I shot Rashonda out there last year. I know it's a pain and it takes time, but taking an extra 30 seconds to take out those solar panels in the background with generative AI or generative fill would just really speak volumes to this image. I also think more of her face, but
Mm-hmm.
that's I'm a portrait photographer. I'm all about the face. So um, also there's a little thing in Lightroom you could do. Um, under your presets, it's already built in. If you go to adaptive subject and just hit pop, it'll find her and it'll make her brighter just automatically. It takes 10 seconds. I would have done that to make her pop a little more from the background, but I personally like, if you look at my style, separation from the subject in the background. I also would have shot this at a lower angle. Sean already mentioned the horizon line. I think if you would have shot it at a lower angle up, that would have helped alleviate some of that. And also, it would have made her appear more dominant in the frame.
Gotcha. Yep, I completely agree with that. Yeah, just again, we're nitpicking. This is a photo that clearly shows an understanding of a lot of technical skill and lighting, and just a couple little things that are really going to help elevate you a little bit higher and help you improve for the next time, Brian. So thank you so much for submitting. I with all my times coming out to Vegas, I still haven't had the opportunity to take photos here. So I'm hoping maybe next year I will be able to do it. I can't remember if it's before or after, but again, next year I have a wedding right after. I think it's after WPI, so I'm gonna have to bail out there pretty soon. So maybe beforehand, I'll get there a little early and do some photos. But Brian,
Yeah, and
yeah, oh,
when
sorry, what was
when
up?
not to interrupt you, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
If you look at the earth, the ground, it's completely level. He did that perfectly. It's those solar panels that get unlevel as they go. They start lifting up on the right side of the frame. So that's why I mentioned take those solar panels out.
Mm, gotcha. Yeah, good. That's a good point. So, well, thank you, Brian, as always, for submitting. Really cool image. We're gonna go ahead and move on now. Well, let's see. Are we on the right? Yep, we're on the right one. All right. This next photo comes from Jared Fix. This was, according to him, high ISO was key here. He pushed his Z9 to the limits. He captured this at the Santa Barbara courthouse. Not flexing, but he did. Oh no, excuse me. He did not capture this with his Hasselblad. He used the Z9. But next critique, he's gonna try to submit a photo he captured on his Hasselblad. So low key flex there. But yeah, I'll let you start here, Rick, since I went first last time.
Yeah, so this is awesome. First off, I love the black and white. I love the contrast. I love. I mean, how are you guys finding these locations? I mean, I would die. I would die to be able to photograph in a location like this. This is awesome. Um, I think it's beautiful. I think it's a beautiful couple. A few things that's standing out at me is her pose looks a little forced. And look, I know they're not models, right? I know they're clients. It's really hard to get your clients to pose how you want them to. I get it. But I do like how she's leaning back against him. Um, the veil is casting a shadow on her face. That's a little distracting. If we would have just moved that veil back just a little bit, we wouldn't see that shadow. He he also kind of looks disinterested. So I would have posed him in a way. Hang on, my computer's not zooming out. I would have posed him in a way where maybe his legs were a little closer to her. Maybe his arm was wrapped around her, and you could see it on the other side. Like, and maybe even tilt his head into her a little bit more. Um, I love how you got the ceiling in it as well. My computer's not acting right. It's freezing up on me. Of course, it does that when I'm on a live.
Okay.
Um, just looking this over.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe spread that dress out a little bit more at the
Okay.
bottom.
Okay. Yeah. I can definitely jump in too, Rick. If you, unless there's something else you wanted to point
No,
out.
no, that was it.
Yeah. So one thing I will say to kind of contrast what you had to say a little bit here is I do think the poses and the expressions do they match each other at least, which I think is nice because it would obviously be weird if like she was smiling and he was, very disinterested. Then that wouldn't make sense. But I can appreciate that they're kind of in this like somber, more stoic uh, vibe, which I do think, can work for like a moodier type of image when it's very it's very Hollywood, right? It's just kind of, it's just different. It's vibey. Um, One thing I would probably do with the pose is I agree, it does look a little like a little much. So I would actually probably have her bring her hips back towards the groom just a little bit more, because what that's going to do is it's still going to show that connection, and it's going to still show her actually leaning against him, but just by bringing those hips in, it might make the pose a little bit more natural looking. The other thing I would probably try to do as well is bring up the light just a tad on them, because they're borderline getting lost a little bit in the busyness of the background. And by just bringing up the light slightly, it's going to help really reestablish them as the main subjects and the main focal points of the image. But like you said, I love the fact that Jared included the ceiling here, really showing off the environment. And I think it was an interesting and a good choice to turn this into black and white, because it just adds that, excuse me, that visual element here that elevates the photo. So
That's what I was wondering. I was wondering if, because he said he had to push his ISO, if that was light spilling in from another room
that's what I'm
or
gonna
outside
guess.
light. Yeah.
That's what I would guess, because if you were shooting with like a softbox, for example, you could easily just
Yeah.
expose for the ambient light in the scene, and then use the light on from your flash to balance the exposures a little bit. But yeah, no, great shot, Jared. What a cool photo, and I'm excited to see next month some of the images that you captured on that Hasselblad. So definitely submit those. But as always, thank you for submitting, Jared. This next photo comes from actually another Floridian, Rick. This photo comes from Roy Seraphin. And Roy, what he said about this image is that they were walking towards some stairs while I was on ground level at the fort below the seawall. I happened to see the bird out of the corner of my eye, and I grabbed this. So I don't know if this is a client, or if just you're doing some street photography, but it's got this like, I don't know. I first of all, let me say I love this. It's got this like almost eerie element to it, right? Just the way they're both kind of like hunched forward a little bit. We got that those hunched shoulders, that the rolling of the neck, and I don't know. There's something very ethereal about this, and it's and just like sad almost. Like I look at this and like I kind of get this like weird sadness, right? And that's not in a bad way, because it evicts a lot of emotion. But the fact that you're able to capture that bird in the left side of the frame too really helps tie it together. So only thing is that I would critique or say is that her arms get a little bit lost in the image, because they're tucked in, so we don't see where her arms off, and she almost looks like an amputee. And again, if this was street art, this is street photography, obviously you're not going to pose them. But if this was a client, that might be something I would try to encourage, is to pose them in a way where you can see those arms a little bit more to establish that shape. But other than that, I mean, the Tony's great. The only technical thing I'm seeing that maybe looks a little weird is at the very bottom left of the frame, and it might be hard to see in your guys' monitors, but the very bottom left of the frame where the sunset meets the wall, I see like almost like a little bit of clipping or a little bit of a highlight that's coming up off that wall. I'm not really sure what it is, but that to me is just a slightly distracting. That's all I have to say. Rick, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. So if this is just the photographer catching a shot of a bird flying and these people weren't posed or weren't supposed to be posed, that's cool. That's an awesome shot. So it's really hard to critique that, because I could sit here all day long, and be like, well, if she looked this way or if he looked this way. But if they're just a couple walking and didn't even know their photograph was taken, he got the bird, that's awesome. The only thing that and you may completely disagree with me, this is from a creative aspect. The only thing I noticed is how there's no detail in the bird. He's completely black. And
Mm-hmm.
that's cool. There's a little bit of detail in them. I would make them black like the bird.
Okay.
I'd make it all a silhouette, 100% a silhouette.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I do see now that I'm looking a little bit closer. I do see a little bit of detail. So, I maybe match the the two images or the two subjects, right? So maybe
Yeah.
match, you maybe bring up some more detail in the bird, or to match them, or bring down the detail in them, right? So you're matching the bird. So maybe do that a little bit could help. But um, yeah, it's such a powerful image. Honestly, I got kind of goosebumps honestly when this first popped up. And for the record, I haven't seen any of these images actually yet. This is the first time I'm seeing these guys. So this is my first time. This is my first experience with all of them. So really cool shot. But Roy, thank you so much for submitting. Glad you shared that with us. Okay, this next photo comes from Chuck Savadalis, and I love seeing Chuck's photos because he has captured all of his photos on film, and a lot of times these are from like the 90s, so it's really cool to see this. But this photo is of Pierre Lemond, a venture capitalist with Sequoia Capital and co-founder and chief technology officer of National Semiconductor. He captured this for the San Jose Business Journal. And he had about 20 minutes to find a location, which ended up being a reception area with a large picture window. He set up, and in 5 minutes, or he only had 5 minutes to take this portrait. He captured this with an Olympus OM4 Ti, which I actually have one of those cameras, which is pretty cool, with a 100 millimeter f2 lens on Kodak Plus X film, and it was lit with Dynalite Studio strobes. So yeah, you start, Rick. Again, let's hear what you have to say.
Well, first of all, I want to say this, and this may offend people, and I'm sorry. I'm an honest person. This is back during real photography. This was back when you couldn't look at the back of your camera and adjust your settings. You had to have it right. So I'm always impressed when I see film, because it's just people are impressed that they can shoot an eagle today in flight and get the eye super sharp. But I mean, if you have auto eye focus and you're one of those shots is going to come out sharp. Back in the film days when they did it, that's impressive. Um, but I'm not discounting anyone. I'm just saying film always impresses me. Um, I love the catch lights in his eye.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love the toning. I love the pose. It's a masculine pose. Um, the only thing, and this is just my OCD, that I can really is that the elbows cut off. But again, this
Ah,
is film, so it impresses me. But I'm like, I know rules are made to be broken, but Kayla borrows my camera all the time, and she'll start shooting people. And if there's a limb cut off or an elbow cut off, I just won't edit it. I'm too OCD with it. But I noticed that, and then the finger placement of the hand going over the other arm, the index finger placement, is kind of distracting me a little bit. But again, I love the creamy bokeh in the background. It's just, man, I wish I could shoot film. I really do. I I'm so impressed by it.
yeah, it is. It is an art form for sure, and I can certainly appreciate what went into film photography, but not only film photography, but portrait photography while using flash, because these are the days where you had to carry around a handheld light meter, and you had to
Yeah,
meter your flash. You couldn't do, quite frankly, what I teach in my workshops and just say, oh, take a photo, look at the back of your camera, make sure your light's balanced properly, and if it's not, adjust accordingly. You couldn't do that back then, right? So you had to meter the light coming out of your flash using a handheld light meter and make sure it was perfect and balance your exposures before you even took the image. So the fact that you know you were able to, photographers were able to do this, it really was a whole different level of technical skill. So I can applaud Chuck for that. um I I'm struggling a little bit with the processing, honestly, or just the film. And maybe it's just I just don't like the film that it was shot on, because like the color of him, that kind of this almost sepia toning doesn't necessarily bother me so much. But then once you move your way down to the arm of the chair, it almost has this like light blue tinge to it, and that to me it looks a little bit out of place. And I am nitpicking here, and I am just speaking from personal, my personal subjective point of view. But it's but the pose I love. I agree it's very masculine. He's almost gripping like the back of the chair, which is showing almost power, right? So he's obviously a person of importance. He's a CEO, I think is what they said, or chief financial officer, and it is very appropriate for what he's trying to convey. Him cutting off the elbow doesn't really bother me so much because it's only one elbow and the composition is well done. So that doesn't necessarily bother me so much. But um, other than that, I honestly don't have too much to say. I mean, it really is a well done image, and it's very impressive for the time period.
Yeah, Kayla tells me all the time I'm weird, that I'm the only one that doesn't like the missing appendages. She says you're the only one in the world that bothers.
No, I definitely don't get me wrong. It definitely bothers me, and it is in some cases, and it is a technical thing to keep in mind. But in situations like this, for example, I personally think it's acceptable. But yeah, there are a lot of situations where it's not always the most ideal thing to do. So um, cool, Chuck. As always, thank you for submitting. We're gonna go ahead and move on. This next photo comes from John Hawking, and this was an Easter portrait. This young lady wanted to show off her dance moves. He lit this with a 32-inch softbox, camera left, captured with a Canon 85 millimeter, shot at 2,000ths of a second, so high speed sync at ISO 200 and f2. So let's see. So you went first last time, so I will go first this time. Yeah, what a. I mean, I don't know if you posed her or like I know you said that she wanted to show off her dance moves, so I don't know if she posed herself or you gave her direction or whatever. But really hard, really hard to get children this age to pose like this. I mean, she's following the rules of portraiture. She's got the nice triangle. She's got the hand on the hip with her elbow off her, off of her waist. She's got the triangles in her feet. Very clearly a dancer, and she genuinely looks like she's having fun, and I love that for her, and I love that you were able to capture this. Composition's great. You have her framed in between the two trees. Only from what I can see, and maybe you're seeing something I'm not, Rick, but from what I can see, there's one issue that I would like to address, or maybe something that's a little bit too, maybe something that could be improved on, and that is the angle of the light. So it's almost slightly too side lit because we have this, in my opinion, this very distracting shadow on her left eye socket, which is completely concealing her left eye in shadow. And if this was a more dramatic, moody portrait, I think that would work. But for this particular situation where it's a happy portrait, the light doesn't match the pose and the expression. So really simple fix in the future. You can do one of two things here, John. You can either have her turn towards the light a little bit more, or have her turn her chin or her body, or just move your light a little bit closer to the camera to help eliminate those shadows. So you get just a little bit more of that even light. Rick, do you agree with me, or am I insane? What do you
No,
think?
I did. That was the first thing I noticed was the eye, the darker of the eye, and not seeing the catch light in that eye. But super cute image. I absolutely love it, and it's so hard to get children in front of a camera, or at least to behave in front of a camera. So kudos to you for that. I I think the highlights in the dress are a little hot for me.
Okay.
On my at least on my screen. Um, I know we all have different calibrated screens.
Yeah, on my screen
Uh,
it looks fine.
okay, on my screen it's pretty hot. I'd bring
Okay.
that down. I also noticed, and kids get dirty. I noticed some dirt on her stocking on the knee that's bent. Looks like dirt or mud or something.
Yep.
I I would take that out. And the only other thing that's really distracting me is composition. She's not really on the rule of thirds, and she's not in the center either. So that's if she was on one or the other completely, that would fit. But the fact that she's kind of in limbo there, she's not on either one, is kind of throwing me off just a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, we're nitpicking, John, because this is a
Yes.
fantastic photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean John is one of my workshop alumni from a couple of years back, and it's been a real pleasure to watch him improve and his work improve. And he actually got his first a little bit. I'm doing a little bit of bragging on your behalf, John. He got his first WPPI silver this past year, which was actually a photo that we critiqued on these live image critiques and gave him some feedback on before he submitted it. So I'm very proud of him. And a little bit of a humble brag for me too, since, I like to say, he's one of my proteges, one of my students. So, but seriously, John, thanks as always. Thank you as always for submitting, and congratulations on that win. Really, really solid job, and keep it up. Okay. So, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next image. We're halfway through now. This photo comes from Steve Eaton, and this is actually a self-portrait. He was going for a bit of a 1940s Hollywood look. Clark Gable as inspiration. He used a mag box as his key light, a hair light with a mag grid, and he bounced bare flash off of a wall in front of me to fill in some of the shadows. So actually quite a bit of a technical process here. What do you think? What do you think, Rick?
I do. I like it. It definitely, his gaze, his connection with the viewer. I mean, I feel like he's peering into my soul. Like I'm trying to figure out, does he see what I did wrong today? Like any sins I may have committed.
No one wants to
But
see that, Rick.
but I do like the pose. Back in those days, they used a lot of high key lighting, um, and a lot of butterfly lighting and bare Fresnel, or bare bulb, I should say, as well, or beauty dish without a modifier. So it's really cool that he bounced the light off the wall in front of him. And this is just, again, this is me nitpicking. I would have headshots and beauty shots. I would have shot at a higher f-stop, or put the camera lens further away. The further away your camera lens is, you can get away with a lower f-stop because you're compressing your subject down onto the focal plane, to where the focal fall off starts. But if you're too close with the lens with a low f-stop, it's only going to focus on the eyes, but your nose is going to be blurred, and anything behind your eyes is going to be blurred. So you either increase your aperture or get like a 135 and back that joker up real far away, and that'll kind of compress you on. You'll have less focal fall off from your eyes to the back of your head. So everything in you, your back, shoulder, and with a white background, there's no reason why you really need to shoot with a super low f-stop anyway, unless you needed the extra light, unless you didn't want to push your ISO or decrease your shutter speed too much.
Yeah, and to kind of echo that a little bit, I think part of why maybe that fall off looks a little bit more pronounced is because there's actually, from what I can tell, it looks like there might be even a little bit of distortion. We're a little too close to you're a little too close to yourself. Maybe using a slightly wider lens. I'd be curious to hear what lens you used. So maybe like the shallow to the field actually does not bother me that much, because I feel like back in this period we experienced a lot of softer images and a lot of soft out of focus backgrounds. So that doesn't necessarily bother me so much, but the distortion, I would say, does a little bit. So maybe just backing off with and using a longer focal length could help minimize that, and you could still get away with that shallow depth of field. But really, the processing on this is excellent. I love it. I love the look. I love the feel. Before, when I first saw this and I didn't read your description, I honestly thought this was shot in film and this was an older image. So I think you really achieved the look you were going for. Again, because this is such a high level of an image, I'm going to nitpick a little bit. And really the only main thing I would change, other than what I just pointed out, was just maybe toning down that highlight on the kind of on the top of your hair. So if you're looking at the frame, on the left side of the frame where your forehead meets your hairline. I do find that part a little distracting. Again, I'm nitpicking here because this is such a high level photograph. So maybe changing that, just cloning that out a little bit or blending it with some of your skin using the patch tool in Photoshop, or using the shine reduce tool in Evoto will really help you with that. So, yeah, cool photo, Steve. Really, really digging it. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. We still got 7 photos to get through, so I want to get through these. This next photo, another black and white. We got a lot of those tonight. This photo comes from Nikki Lister, and
This is Nick. This is a Nikki picture.
this is a Nikki photo. Yep. So
Oh,
yeah. So yeah. Let's dive into this. I wait. You started last time, right? So it's my turn to start. Is that the? I think that's the rule here. Okay. Let me look at this. So, okay. Couple small things here, and I'm just trying to figure out in what order I want to present them. So let me talk about what I like. I love this lighting, right? It's a very dramatic, moody, contrasty type of light, and her expression matches the lighting. So you did a very good job, Nikki. If she was just like smiling and looking at the camera, would not work. This lighting would not work for that image, but you nailed it here. Couple things on the pose, and I'll probably have you touch up on this a little bit, Rick. I want to start with her hand, her right arm. Kind of just floating there. Like it's almost like she's about to establish a connection with herself, but then she's kind of in this in-between part. So I don't know if and maybe you'll feel differently about this, Rick, and you can touch up on it when we get to you, but I don't know if it's working for me. Like, I feel like the hand needs to be like a little bit in closer to her face. The other thing too that I'm seeing that's just slightly distracting for me is it looks like she's pressing that arm. I don't know if you're looking at my screen, everyone, you can probably see me. I have my mic kind of in the way, but she's kind of pressing this arm against her body, which is making her arm appear a little bit bigger than it probably actually is, because she looks like a very, very fit, very thin individual. And I'm not sure if, that it's a little distracting me. It makes the arm look slightly bigger than it probably actually is. So really, those are the two things regarding the pose that I would talk about. Now, some of you might not like the overexposed highlights, the high key style here. I think it works for this image because of the way it was shot and the way the vibe, what the vibe is like. So in this particular situation, I'm going to allow it, so to speak. What would you have to add to that, Rick?
I absolutely freaking love this image. This
Yeah, I
is
do
like
too.
right up my alley, and it's not because I know Nikki. It's when it first popped up before you said her name, I was like, wow, this is cool. I love the longing in her face. It just there's emotion there. It looks like longing. Um, I love the way the I don't know what you call that thing, a net. I love the way it's contouring with her cheekbone. Like, man, that's just killer right there. And even contouring with the forehead. I absolutely love that. Now, I do agree with Sean about the arm free floating. Maybe the tips of the fingers on the cheek, or maybe clutching the pearls some way around her neck to bring attention to those. Um, and I looking at both arms, it does appear that one arm is bigger. Um,
Yeah.
but also, you kind of lose the pose if you pull that arm away, because now the elbow is kind of pointing more towards the camera. So maybe, as much as we don't like to do this, maybe slightly using the liquefy tool in post just to kind
Mm-hmm.
of bring
Mm-hmm.
that arm in a little bit and not make it appear bigger than the other. But and if you could, if you're watching Nikki, if you could just do a tighter crop for me and send it to me on Instagram, I'm just curious to see what a tighter crop would look like. I feel like it would bring me more into her face, more into her eyes. But again, it's just creative, being subjective. So
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Yeah, Nikki, what an outstanding photo. I freaking love this. So there's not much more I'm gonna say, other than really well done. Thank you for submitting. Thank you for sharing, and we're gonna move on. All right, this next photo comes from Josh Adams, and this was captured with his Nikon Z8 and the new Voltrox 135 1.8 out on my property. Oh, on your property. Oh, excuse me. Uh, excuse me. I only say that because I know Josh, and he's in Arizona, great photographer. Very cool. Rick, go for it.
first of all, that Viltrox 135 is no joke.
What
He's
is
got
it?
the
I've never heard of
Nikon.
it.
Oh my God, Viltrox is a new lens company,
Okay.
and they make them for Sony and Nikon. I don't think they make them for Canon yet, but they're
Okay.
very budget-friendly lenses. But they used to not be, but now they are. Within the past year and a half, they're
Mm-hmm.
super quality.
Okay.
I got their 40, I got their 50, and I got their 135, and both are razor sharp. Um, but anyway, I got the 135 version for Sony, and yeah, that thing is so sharp. You better have ePhoto because you're going to see every pore and every detail in your subject. You better have some way of fixing it. Um,
Yeah.
but I love this pose. I mean that's a genuine smile right there. That's not
Mm-hmm.
forced. And it's not the cheesy teeth smile either, right? Where you're showing
Right.
someone's teeth. That's a genuine smile. I love that. I love the yellows with the blues with the pinks. I love that. I absolutely love this photo. I'm assuming this is a senior portrait, and that's just an assumption.
Yeah.
Um, it's just being nitpicky, like Sean, is the hand that's on the hip with the thumb through the belt loop. There's a gap. It looks like she's doing the Star Trek, "Live Long and Prosper."
Live long and prosper.
Um,
Yeah.
so maybe soften those hands a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe something more like that. Um, and this is something easy to miss. I have an 18-year-old daughter, and I photograph her all the time. And maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just weird. If I see a hint of a bra through the clothing, I patch that out. I take that out for anyone that I'm shooting
Mm-hmm.
under the age of 18. I just do that just to make them feel more comfortable with their images.
Yeah.
Um, and I noticed I don't know if it's the shirt or if it's the color grading, the skin is a little pink for me. I like the pink in the shirt. The skin is a little pink also, at least on my screen. Um,
Yep. Yep.
but that's all I have on that one.
Okay. Yeah. I actually I have a couple things, but before I talk about that, I I okay. So you all know that I love cars. I love cars. I love trucks. I love off-road vehicles. Yesterday, my client, they brought their McLaren 720S to their wedding to do some photos with it. Which, if you don't know what that is, it's a $375,000 sports car. Um, I suck at shooting cars with people. I don't know what it is. As much as I love cars, I've never been good at it. So when I see something like this that is so well done, I got to applaud the maker, in this case, Josh. So really good job. Your attention to detail, framing her within the windshield and not having that windshield line cut through her head is great. The composition, the lead line starting from the front of the vehicle, going into the back where it just tapers off and you lose focus is awesome. The Even the little like tiny details of the rust around the headlights is so cool. So really good job, Josh. Really, as far as the pose is concerned, I only have one small critique, and that is her left arm, the elbow that's leaning on the headlight. It's coming up just slightly too high, and it's borderline creating this awkward hump on her left shoulder, which is just slightly unflattering. So, couple things you can do to minimize that. Have her step on her toes, like really step on her toes, right? So she gets that. She gets her elbow a little bit lower and her shoulders a little bit higher, so it matches. Or just have her stand like on a box or something, or not even a box, just like something to elevate her a little bit taller because it's just barely unflattering, almost borderline unflattering. She might love this, and she probably does because it's a great photo. But you could do that. Or another thing that I just thought of that might help a little bit is to have her bring her right elbow a little bit closer towards the frame. That way, it evens up that shoulder on the right side, so it's not as the shoulder on the left coming up, on her left coming up, isn't as pronounced. So, other than that, great shot. That's my only critique. So, good job, Josh. You don't suck. All right. Here we go. Moving on. This next photo comes from Ellie B. Chico. And Ellie she has a little bit of info attached to this. This is a new ongoing project working with assisted living senior facilities, giving these ladies a different view on themselves as the matriarchs of their family. This experience has been beyond fulfilling and is at the top of my most precious moments in my career. This was a 3-light setup. Her main light was captured with a 400 watt strobe with a MagMod softbox, 42-inch softbox, on a Geekoto GT200. And then a Geekoto G200 with an orange mag gel for the background, with a 36-inch mag strip on another 200 watt strobe. So, okay, I guess I'm reading this incorrectly. But basically, 3-light setup, shot with the Canon R5 and 24 to 10528. So, I actually want Rick. I actually want you to start again because I feel like this photo is more your realm, and I would love to hear from you first on this.
Yeah. So, that's my backdrop, my Baby Dream backdrops. That's my backdrop
Oh, it
design.
is.
So
Okay.
I'm glad to see Ellie's using it. That's one of my favorite designs. One of my most popular designs. B, I love this image.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you're doing it for people in assisted living. It's something me and Kayla actually talked about last month that nobody knows. Trying to talk to nursing homes here, and seeing if there's a way we could possibly get in and do portraits. Because my mom used to do. I grew up with a mom who used to go to nursing homes when I was 5 or 6 and take me with her, and she would like sing hymns for everyone there. And
Oh,
there's so
cool.
many people there that it's just forgotten about. Like people don't even care about them anymore. Don't even go. It's a little better in assisted living, but
Mm-hmm.
in nursing homes, like they don't even see their families anymore.
Wow.
So me and Kayla have talked about the idea of one weekend just seeing if we could get in and just photograph some of them. Just I don't know, just to be a part of the community. Um, the only thing, Elliot, like I love this image. I would use generative fill to fix the wrinkles on the backdrop
Mm-hmm.
on the right side of the image and also on the floor, on the ground. And I know it's hard. You're setting up in an assisted living space. I know it's difficult to get everything straight. There's actually backdrop bungees that if you message me, I can send you the link on them. I use them all the time, and they clip to the sides of your backdrop stand, and they'll stretch out your backdrop for you. Um, I would use those in this scenario. The other thing I noticed is I love the warmth on the back. I think you said you use a Geekoto G200 with a gel, but the light that's in front of her, her skin tone is a little bluish to me. Um, I would make that more of a natural skin tone, maybe warm that up as well. Um, and I'm not the end all be all. It's all your creative decision. Um, but for most of my fine art work is there's warmth in the highlights and cool in the shadows. Um, at least with my color grading. Um, and I'm not even mad that she's looking off frame. I'm not even. it's just she seems so regal sitting there, which that's the name of the backdrop, regal. Um, but I would like to see one with her eyes connecting too with the viewer. But again, I'm not even mad at it. Like I think this is really cool. Um, I think it's cool what you're doing. I commend it, and yeah, this is right up my alley.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Ellie, what a fantastic project that you're able to be a part of. I, everything that you said, Rick, I agree with you on. Just a couple small things to add, just to improve the overall quality. To echo a little bit on the wrinkles, there's also a couple creases in the backdrop as well, particularly kind of where her hand is at that hand level. So if you look at her left hand, not her right hand, but the left hand that's not holding anything, you'll see there's a line right next to that that kind of goes parallel all the way through the image. So that is absolutely something I would for sure clone out. Just get rid of that crease line. And speaking of hands, I feel like her right hand, or excuse me, her left hand is kind of getting a little lost in under her sleeve right there. Like we just kind of see a little bit of a nub, just kind of her fingers. So I would just recommend pulling her sleeve back a little bit more so we can see more of that hand. It doesn't get as lost. And then finally, the one thing I'm struggling with a little bit, and I don't know what honestly I don't know how I would change it. And maybe you have a suggestion, Rick, is the composition, right? So it's very center weighted, like her face is right smack dab in the middle of the frame. And I understand why she did it, because she wants to show off the top of the backdrop as well. But I do feel like it's just we have this kind of negative space that's just floating around there. And I almost feel like maybe cropping it differently or just adjusting the angle might help a little bit differently. Is there anything you would do to change the composition on this, Rick? Or do you
So
like
yeah,
it how it is?
I was about to say that also. Like this top left corner. Now I understand too. She wants to show the ringlet of the backdrop, um, but that stuff's it's not telling the story. She
Mm-hmm.
is the story, and her just being regal herself. So if things aren't adding to the story, take them out. This lamp and this flower in the background's not adding to the story. So
Yeah.
take that
I,
top left corner and bring that closer to the top of her head. And you're still going to have some of that smoke because I know you want the smoke in it as well. You're still going to have some of that smoke, but you're getting rid of a lot of stuff that doesn't tell the story, doesn't help the image, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And as you pointed out the top left, as I'm looking at it, I see what appears to be a backdrop clip where it's actually the backdrop's being clipped to like the
Mm.
rail. And I think that's what that is. So that's something that you would get docked on in a competition, Ellie. So just keep that little tiny attention to details. And I know sometimes we go cross-eyed. Like a lot of my submissions to WPPI this year, I looked at those photos for hours, and you go cross-eyed. So just little tiny things to keep in mind. But great photo, Ellie. Seriously,
And
so powerful.
your main light too. Your main light, just putting a GTO on your main light, what or CTO, I'm sorry, will
Yeah, yeah,
help
yeah,
definitely color correct that skin tone right there.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Very cool, Ellie. Thank you again so much for sharing. What a cool shot. Okay, we're gonna move on here. This next photo comes from Kristen Rush. She actually just second shot for me this past weekend, and this she waited until blue hour to capture this image. She used two lights with custom Kelvin with gel to balance her skin tone. So maybe I'm assuming maybe she used a CTO gel here, and this was a 30th wedding anniversary photo. So that's kind of cool. Well, I'll start this time since you started the past two times. The first thing that I'm gonna grill you on for, Kristen, that I grill everyone on for when I see these images, is that horizon line. Watch that horizon line. You're it's a little tilted to the right, so just really bring that back a little bit to get that nice and level. Other thing is the composition as well. Kind of like in this last photo, their faces are right in the center of the frame. You have, and then and Rick, what you said in that last on that last image is perfect. If it's not adding to the story, get rid of it, right? So we have a lot of this negative space at the bottom of the frame where we have the dock. We have a little too much negative space up top. So that's something, you know, you kind of have to make a decision on to crop this a little bit differently. So I would personally, if this was my photo, I would probably crop it up so their faces are a little bit lower in the frame and we see more sky, and just crop out a lot of that dock, honestly. So basically, if you guys are looking at my screen right now, I probably would crop it more like that. And even then, that already helps immensely, in my opinion. So, yeah. And then I'm seeing some more post-production stuff. I'm seeing on his leg. I don't know if those are pixels or what's going on there, but I think it looks like, actually, you know what I think it looks like? It looks like glitter, maybe, that is being reflected from the light. So I'm not really sure what that is, but it's either way, it's distracting. I would change that. Yeah, other than that, I mean, it's a nice photo. I'm sure they're gonna love it. I do find the light shining through a little distracting. I probably personally wouldn't have the light shine through, so maybe just get a little bit lower, shoot from a slightly lower perspective to add a little bit more interest with the sky and everything, and help eliminate that light. But do you have anything to add, Rick?
Yeah. Well, first of all, what was her name?
Kristen.
Kristen. If that's glitter on his pant leg, I feel your pain. Because my wife designs gowns and there's glitter everywhere all the freaking time. No matter how many times I shower, or how many times I wash my clothes or change, I find glitter. So I feel my life is full of feather dander and glitter.
Yep.
That's my life now. Um, this dock is not doing anyone any favors at all. This thing is busy, and the water is not so beautiful that I really care about it. The water's not that interesting. Their love for each other, that's what's interesting to me, and the sky. So like Sean mentioned cropping higher, but I would wonder what a really tight crop, like cutting them off 3/4, like mid thigh, kind of right above those pegs. I don't know what you want to call them, those four pegs, and then a tight crop, like just cutting off like right above the top of their heads, just where you're kind of seeing the light coming through and you're seeing their connection, and that is the whole image. I kind of wonder what that would look like.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would agree with that. I think maybe removing those whatever they are, those boat pegs things, yeah, pylons, removing those would actually add a lot to the image. But I love the technique. I love, you know, you using the backlight. It's really cool. It's really unique. So thank you for submitting this. Really awesome image. What a cool time of night. Capture, or night, evening, afternoon, sunset, whatever you want to call it. So thank you, Kristen. Appreciate that. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move on. We got only a couple more left. This next photo comes from Adrian Como, and she used one Godox V8682 with a red mag gel in the car. I don't know what that is. Oh, I think it's just speed light. And a 200-watt strobe with a Magsphere XL with a grid camera right for the senior. Okay, I got you. Well, I guess I'll start again since to balance things out. Yeah, cool. First of all, cool car. BRZ, Subaru, and perfect entry-level sports car for someone his age. The thing I like about what you've done here is you've framed him in a way so you're not getting the busyness from the trees, right? You have him framed in that white space, which makes him stand out, and that is a huge success on that part. So really good composition. Probably what I would do differently is maybe bring up the exposure just slightly on the subject, because you're capturing this photo so wide where you have a lot of busy elements in the image. So if you're going to shoot wide and you're going to shoot portraits wide, you need to really make sure that your subject is the star of the image and is really standing out, and he's just borderline getting lost here. A couple other things as well. You have the light spilling over a little bit from that's intended to be on him onto that front driver's side wheel. So that wheel really, really stands out. And actually it's the first thing that my eye goes to over the subject. So bring down the exposure on that front wheel right there because it's really distracting. I know he probably loves those gold wheels and he wants to show them off a little bit more, but just bring it down. And just a quick, I know I mentioned earlier I'm not the best automotive photographer, but one trick I have learned is when you're shooting automotive photography from this perspective, have the driver turn the wheel one full rotation to the right towards the passenger side. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring the face of the wheel towards the camera. It's going to show more wheel and less tire, which car people like. So something to keep in mind when you're doing automotive photography. Other than that, I love the composition. I love this more wider portrait. It's more in my realm. With that said, I probably still would crop it just slightly tighter. But doing those two things, you're going to have a really strong image. Rick, anything else you have to add?
So I like this image too. I like his pose. I want to know, did you clean up that street or was that street that clean? Because I'm impressed if you took the time to clean up that street because that gravel looks smooth. It looks nice. But the front driver's side tire, I see a reflection of your flash. I would take that out. Also, I see the strip box in his glasses. You might try the lens flare removal through Evoto. That might take that out.
Mm-hmm.
I would take out the reflection of the houses in the car. On the car door, I can see houses.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look over, let's see, his left shoulder, from halfway through his mid left arm up into the tree line, there's this string. There's this weird black line going up into the tree line. If you zoom in, you'll see it.
Oh yeah.
I don't.
It's very subtle. I'll zoom in for you viewers at home, but yeah, I see it now.
It's super distracting. I caught it as I was just grabbing the picture and kind
Oh,
of
it's
moving
their
it around.
telephone. Their telephone wires. That's what
Okay,
they
yeah,
are.
I would take those out. I'm not
Yep.
even zoomed in. I have him and the car perfectly framed on my screen, and I could still see it. Um, and then I don't know if this is a stain or a wrinkle on his knee that's bent, but there's this little dark spot that's just sticking out at me. I would just take that out as well.
Yep, I see. It looks like a raindrop. Okay. Right on. Cool. Yeah, awesome. Well, what a cool photo. Thank you for sharing. Just take those tips in mind, Adrian. Um, you got a solid photo and a cool car for someone his age too. I would have loved to have a car. Actually, I did kind of have a car like that when I was his age. Actually, I lied. I saved up and worked weekends to be able to afford it. But really cool car. So and cool photo. So thank you so much for submitting. All right, we got two more photos left. This next photo, who is this from? Oh, this is from Melissa with mjoyphoto.com. And Melissa took two images here. One exposing for the subject with the flash and a second for the background and plated them together in Photoshop. I'll let you start this time, buddy.
So I just want to know, is that 5.56 rounds on her belt? Is that 5.56? Because I'm from Georgia and we love shooting our guns
Oh,
out here. So-
no, those I was about to say, those 223s. No, you know what those are?
what are
And
those?
I know this because I also DJ. They are they're quarter inch to eighth inch adapters for DJ headphones.
No way.
I'm
Is that what
pretty
those are?
sure. I'm
Are we
pretty
looking at the
sure that's
same
what they. I am
the same
almost
image?
positive. The image is a little low res. They're either that. No, that's what they are. That's exactly what they are. They're quarter inch Audio adapters.
Well, anyway,
Wait,
it's
this
cool.
isn't your. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Um, this is the wrong image. This is the wrong image.
I'm
This is
I'm on a black and white image right now.
yeah. No, but yeah, I got the name wrong. This is Paul Sebastian's image. I'm sorry about that, Paul. Not sure how that happened. Um, that's weird. I'm missing. Oh, okay. I see what happened. Yep, this is Paul. I just skipped ahead. I'm sorry. This is Paul Sebastian's photo. Okay, my bad. So, basically, let me go back to this. So, my bad. This is a single overhead light in a gridded 20-inch softbox. He wanted a focused light with a fairly dramatic drop off. Okay, there we go. I accidentally skipped ahead. I'm sorry about that, Paul. So, yeah, maybe Paul, you can either confirm nor deny if if that is in fact what I think they are. But anyway, let's continue. Let's back up a step and continue on. Or
Well,
what were you saying?
I like the stylistic choice of the belt. I was gonna say that. I love the attitude in the image. I love the vibe that it's giving. We are here to nitpick. Um, Black and white, you could a lot of times get away with having some blown out highlights, and it just kind of works with the contrast of the image. I would still tone down the highlights just a little bit on her forehead and on
Mm-hmm.
her hand that's reached
Just
up.
slightly. Yep.
The hand placement on her hip looks a little forced. The one that's on her hip, maybe because it's her fingers are spread. Maybe that's what's doing it to me. I feel like you have a lot of room at the bottom, but not a lot of headroom. So I would either extend the headroom. It's kind of off balance to me. I would extend the headroom a little bit in Photoshop, or I would crop that bottom up. In my opinion, I'd probably do both. I'd probably crop the bottom up a little bit higher and extend uh, the headroom just a little bit.
A little bit of
And
breathing room. Yeah.
yeah, and the other thing, because I want to leave some stuff for Sean, and I mean, it's just stupid. It's just nitpicking at this point. Is taking out the flap of her belt
Mm.
that's
Yep.
coming off because I'm catching it and I know what it is, but at first I'm like, what is that sticking out? So, I would just take that out so people don't have to ask that question.
Yeah. No, I agree with everything you said. A little more breathing room up top. Bring those highlights down just slightly. You know what this reminds me of, and I know you kids watching probably don't understand this, but remember when you used to get a CD from the store and you would open up the CD and you'd pull out the little booklet and there'd be like a bunch of different photos of bands, like band photos and stuff like that. This is something I feel like I could see like on like in that booklet or like even on an album cover or the back cover of an album. This is, and it's not just because of the quarter-inch adapters on the belt, which I'm pretty sure I'm like 90% sure that's what that is. The more I look at it, but yeah, that's what that reminds me of, and it's so well done. It's so tasteful. Honestly, I don't really have much more to add other than what you said, because I think this is a phenomenal image. It's so well done. I love the expression. I love the lighting. Yeah, maybe the right hand is a little too open faced palm, but other than that, it's hard for me to critique an image that I wouldn't even think of being able to reproduce myself, right? It's just in its own level um, of artistry. So, Paul, good job. Really, really stellar image. Thank you for submitting. Anything else before we move on, Rick?
No.
Okay, cool. Yeah, solid photo. And sorry for the mix-up. This next photo for real is Melissa's, and again, she did use, this was two images, one for the background, one for the foreground.
So we're looking at the young lady in a blue dress.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's see here. I guess I will start this time. Yeah, I mean, you definitely have a lot going on here, right? And when you're capturing these images really wide like this, it's tough. and it's tough to make it so your subject doesn't get lost in the background. And you did a good job here. And if I this is kind of looks like the Venetian in Vegas. And if it is the Venetian, and Melissa, maybe you can confirm or deny this, you must have shot this very quickly because they are anal there about taking photos. Like, they will not let you take any photos there. So if this is in fact there, kudos to you just for getting that location alone. Let's see here. Yeah, let's start with it is the Venetian. Okay, yeah, thanks for confirming that with me. So let me start with the lighting. Lighting's great. It's well balanced. It's not flat. The only thing that you're kind of struggling with here a little bit is that separation between your subject and the background, right? So, maybe adding in a kicker light to help create a little bit more separation would help. The one thing that is not working for me, and maybe this is just on my screen, but we're not seeing any detail in her feet, and it almost looks like she's floating a little bit, or like she just doesn't have any feet. And I know it's kind of hard when you're lighting, someone with a dress like this because the feet are going to be encased in shadow, but having some way to light those feet is really going to help make this photo stand out a little bit more, because right here it just looks like she's floating and it almost looks a little bit unrealistic. Other than that, I think she needs a little bit more direction with her hands. She's just kind of doing the Ricky Bobby, what I would do with my hands, and they're just laying on the side of her dress. So maybe have her take her right hand, pick up her train, bring that elbow towards the camera more so you can see her elbow better. With her left hand, she could be doing, something else with that, maybe playing with her hair or her putting it on her hip. Basically, have her do something with her hands, fix that lighting, maybe crop it in a little tighter, and I think you got a killer photo. Rick, thoughts, complaints, concerns?
Yeah, I like the way you placed her in between two arches, like that. You didn't put her head like right in the middle of one of the tips of the arches. That's something that a lot of people wouldn't have caught. I like your color combo between the blue and the yellow here. Um, and I'm sure that that was just the natural yellow of the Venetian lights, but that's something you could have changed in Lightroom or taken the saturation out, just made them white. I like that you left them yellow, um, to kind of go opposite of that royal blue there. Um, the only thing when you zoom in, and I don't know if I'm assuming this was a high ISO image because there's not a lot of detail in anything, and when you zoom in, she's extremely soft,
Yeah.
and one of her eyes looks closed. So I'm assuming maybe you used a lot of noise reduction, or maybe you had a really low shutter speed and she was moving, and that's why there's no detail. Um, so I know it's hard too, especially if Sean said at the Venetian if they're trying to kick you out. I know I just went through this at Shutterfest where we were shooting at night, and I was about this far away, and I found that if I put my light actually at its weakest setting and dropped my shutter speed and then actually increased my ISO. I didn't go above 1,000 though in ISO. It actually exposed for the building in the background, and also my subject was super sharp.
Yeah.
Um, just a little tip for next time, just to try it. And again, like Sean said, she just looks like she's floating, but I know that's hard. I mean,
Very
the
hard.
dress, the dress is not letting the light get through to the legs. So again, this is just nitpicking stuff.
Yeah. Very, very technically challenging shot to pull off, Melissa, for so many different reasons. But um, it's a great image. It's a cool image. And I think you should be proud of yourself. So well done. Well, I want to move on to our last photo of the night. And this was captured by Nick Benson. Um, Basically, what he did to capture this is he found a bowl at a venue, and he essentially used it as a gobo. So he essentially shined a light through this bowl to transform a boring hallway into something more interesting. And for those of you watching, I have a photo pulled up of what the bowl looks like. So if you are watching the live Facebook feed, you can see what it looks like. But it's essentially a gold, like almost like a fruit bowl or something that has holes in it. And he found this, and what a really cool, unique idea to think to shine a light through that. But yeah, I'm gonna let you, Rick. I'm gonna let you just kind of close us off for the night and talk to us about your thoughts on this image.
What? Hey, I love the creativity. I love that you used a bowl to turn a boring hallway, just plain space, into something. I know me personally, my weakness, I would have failed. I wouldn't even have thought of that. I would have just shot it plain, and then I would have added like an overlay in post to give it some character. So that's cool that you did that in camera and that you got that. I love burgundy suits. You can ask my wife. I have lots of burgundy clothing. It's my favorite color.
Uh,
Burgundy or maroon, I don't know the difference, but I like them both. I like how you have them on the rule of thirds. Um, the only thing is his collar's bothering me. His collar's not all the way down.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, Kayla says I'm OCD with this stuff. She says it's ridiculous, but I noticed that his
No,
collar's
it
not.
is a little distracting. Yep.
And I can't see his face. Now I know it's hard when you're posing couples, and I know like when they're in the moment. In my mind, they're dancing right now. They're slow dancing to a song. And the last thing you want to do is distract him and say, "Hey, move your hand down so I can see his." That's the last thing you want to do. So I'm not. Trust me, I get it. I know where you're at. If this was a posed photo with two models, let me phrase it that way, I would have her move her hand down to where I can see more of his face, and maybe have him turn just a little bit more towards the camera. I also, I there is blue in that dress. I can see it. I'd be interested if what it would look like if the blue popped just a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more. Um, and I don't want to take too much else away. I want to let Sean go in on that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with everything you said. I don't have too much more to add. Everything you said, I would agree with. I'd like to see his mouth a little bit more because her hand is kind of covering his chin and his mouth. So, easy solution to that is you can actually just have him bring his forehead a little bit closer towards the camera, have him just turn a little bit more, so we can see it's a little bit more pronounced. The one thing I would really like to see though is the light to be a little bit less flat. It seems like it's pretty harsh, and it just doesn't have a lot of dimension to the light. So it's almost just like an on camera flash kind of vibe, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I feel like when you're at this level of creativity and you're shooting at this high of a level, you want to match, the light the with the high level of technical skill that it's required here. So that would be my only main nitpicking thing, was just the two things I saw the most, again, was his face being hidden a little bit and the light just being a little flat. But yeah, composition's great, and I love that he really incorporated those shadows in the background. In fact, I'd probably even go a little bit more extreme with the crop, and I'd actually maybe crop in a little bit tighter from the top left and bring it down, just or bottom left and bring it up, just to really show off the shadows a little bit more. But again, we're just nitpicking here, and overall, it's a very, very great, exciting image. Maybe take down the highlights a little bit on her shoulder right here. It's just a little distracting. It's not too bad, but it is a little distracting. So maybe just take those down. But yeah, that's really all I have to say. Anything else, Rick?
No,
Cool. Well, I have some news for you. That is the end. That is the end. Those are all 17 images. What'd you think for your first time being a guest host on my channel? What'd you think?
it was fun, man. I just wish I had more chocolate milk to to
Did you
last
kill it
me.
already?
Yeah, it's just done. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it was such a pleasure having you on here, Rick. I knew when I hung out with you at the Invitational last year that I had to have you on because your talent, your ability, it was not unnoticed, and I think everyone really appreciates the what you brought to that competition. So, thank you for joining me with this and sharing your expertise with all of my followers.
Thank you for having me, man. And I just want to say real quick, were you as surprised as I was at how short Josh Beaton actually is?
How short he is. Yes, he is.
Yeah, yeah,
He is a tiny man.
yeah. He
He is a
is
very
super.
tiny man. I had
He
to
had to
look
get
down
on a
on him.
stool. He had to get on a stool to photograph everybody. So, yeah,
Yeah. For those of you who do not know Josh Beaton, he was another one of the competitors, another incredible photographer, and he is quite large. He is
yes,
like 6'6" or something like that.
yeah.
He's a
He's a
tall
tall
dude.
man.
He's a tall dude, and he actually at WPPI this year he won quite a few awards. I mean,
Yep,
dude, the dude killed it, crushed it this
yep.
year. So, congrats to you, Josh. But yeah, before we hop off and announce the winners of the Voto packages, anything else you'd like to share with the world? Any other workshops? Where can people find your work? Just give yourself a
Yeah.
little bit of love. Humble bragging.
Just just Rick without a K. I don't know why there's a K in Rick. There's not a K in Richard. So Rick without a K, RIC, RickLewisPhotography.com or on Instagram, Rick Lewis Photography. And you can find me. Our next workshop will be in July. It's a fine art workshop in Atlanta, Georgia. We just recently relocated there. I don't think you know that, Sean.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't.
yeah, so
I didn't know that.
back in February, we relocated to Atlanta, Georgia. So
Well,
um,
congratulations.
find me here. If you don't know me already, always feel free to shoot me a message. I always respond within a day, and I'm more than happy to answer anything.
Perfect, perfect. Well, let's go ahead and announce the Evoto winners. And again, these two winners are going to receive two 1,600 credit editing packs from Evoto. I just need you to send me your email, and you need to if you haven't already, you need to make sure you use that same email to register with Evoto so they can apply that to your account. So I have asked ChatGPT to select two random winners, and those winners are Chuck Savadalis and who was number 14? Adrian Como. So congratulations, you two. Well deserved. Please reach out to me and let me know what those emails are, and we'll create some awesome art together. So, as always, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for submitting images. We can't do this without you submitting photos. So please, even if you're a little shy, submit images. You can even remain anonymous. And as always, stay classy, stay sassy, and be dope nasty. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.